So it's been about 6 months since the release of these. These are the AirPods Pro, if I can get them open, 2. And yeah, I've been using these pretty much every day for the last 6 months. And so here is my long-term review of the AirPods Pro 2. But before we get into it, you know the deal. Go ahead and follow me over on Twitter or Instagram. And of course, if you end up liking this video, if you find this video helpful, let me know in the comments down below what your thoughts are on the AirPods Pro 2, and hit that like button and subscribe. That would be much appreciated, and I'll be forever indebted to you. How about that? I owe you one. Let's start off with some of the things that have not been so great. And honestly, the first one is my fault. I ended up having my AirPods Pro 2 out of the case, but in my pocket, and I washed them. And remarkably, one survived. I washed them and dried them, so let's be clear here. Remarkably, one survived, the other one did not. I pay for Apple Care Plus. I'll put the price of Apple Care Plus on the screen. I'm not entirely sure how much it is. So off the top of my head, I feel like $79 rings a bell, but again, I don't know for sure. So here's the price of Apple Care Plus for AirPods Pro 2. And I also don't remember how much it was to replace them, but I remember that it was entirely worth it because the other alternative was to get them completely replaced out of pocket and pay another $249. And so what my option was to get them completely replaced by Apple for a set amount. And so I do not recommend washing them in your washer and dryer. So let's just make sure you guys don't do that. It was entirely my fault. This is not anything to do with Apple's fault, obviously. But yeah, I don't recommend doing that. That was something that happened to me. But this was more so commentary on how great and worth it Apple Care Plus is for certain products. The iPhone is one of them. People always ask me, hey Dan, why don't you ever use a case? And I remember seeing this, I can't take credit, but there was a tweet out there from someone who said, Apple Care Plus coverage is my case. And that is kind of how I feel about that. And so yeah, get Apple Care Plus if you are looking to buy AirPods Pro 2 in the future. The next thing that's not so great, adaptive transparency. It's not that it's a bad thing, I just don't like it, and so I personally turn mine off. And you can do so by going into settings, and under your AirPods Pro, they're listed there in your iPhone. You can go ahead and turn those off, or turn off adaptive transparency. And I highly recommend doing it if you think it's weird that all of a sudden you start to hear some sound leakage and like it feels like you're losing like connectivity. It's really hard to describe, but I'll tell you, over the last 6 months, I maybe in the first couple of months, like didn't ever notice adaptive transparency, didn't know if it worked. I didn't really travel a lot either, so I didn't know when it was going to kick in. I wasn't in a lot of super loud environments wearing my AirPods. And then one day I was just listening, I was at a coffee shop, I think, or I forget where, but I was like, why? It feels like I'm losing connection, or like it's like my AirPod might be falling out of my ear. Why am I only hearing music starting to come out a little bit less and like hearing more noise coming in? And then it clicked, and that's adaptive transparency working. And I don't like it because I can't really control it. Like it would be nice if like maybe your iPhone pops up a notification that says adaptive transparency is kicking in. Do you want to turn it off for like an hour? Because maybe it'll happen more often. Coffee shops have really loud abrasive sounds depending on where you're at more often. The grinder for the espresso, the foam, those sounds triggered that a lot. And that's where I first noticed it. And so maybe I don't want my adaptive transparency to keep kicking on during that situation, which it did. Instead of having to go into settings, it'd be kind of cool if it like popped up and offered the ability to kind of mute it for an hour while you're at the coffee shop or wherever it might be where that situation might lead to adaptive transparency kicking on when you don't necessarily think you need it. But in most cases, if you're maybe talking to somebody or you're at a shop and you want that to turn on, then maybe it might be useful to you. When I was in New York, you hear lots of sounds happening all the time, sirens, and that could be really helpful. Maybe you're riding your bike and a siren's popping up and you couldn't hear it from before. Adaptive transparency really does kick in at the right moment. It kind of helps you be alerted that there are things going on that you need to, and that's a totally different situation. But for me, in my everyday life, I don't usually need adaptive transparency, so I ended up turning it off. I don't really like it. But for you, you might, and so let me know in the comments down below, of course, if you actually do enjoy adaptive transparency, if you kind of feel the same as me. let me know down in those comments. And so honestly, that's the short list, and one of them is something that I did on my own stupidity, and so that means that these AirPods Pro 2 are obviously something I really enjoy. If my short list of things that I don't like is something that, one, it could be 100% avoided if you just don't wash your AirPods, and two is adaptive transparency, which you can turn off, and it's not really a huge deal that I don't like it. So the list of good things is kind of never ending. Let's start off with the things that I really do enjoy. And battery life is one of them. I think battery life has been really, really good. I can get an entire long flight. I took these to a cross-country trip, or nearly cross-country, and the flight was like 4.5 hours, and it lasted all 4.5 hours, and I didn't even need to charge when I got off, and I could still listen, and it has been fantastic. Standby battery life has been really good, because I do go through spurts over the last 6 months where I'm using it quite a bit, and then there might be like a week or two, or sometimes 3, where I'm maybe testing other headphones, or I'm using the AirPods Max, and these don't get touched as often, and I've come to it never needing to charge. There has always been something available in terms of battery life to get me through that session, and then I can remember to charge. And so it also has been really nice to see your available, not only for the AirPods Pro themselves, but the case, your battery life inside of your iPhone's like battery health center, or the widgets if you have those set up. You can constantly see it without having to have them in your ears, which is a feature that was new to the AirPods Pro 2, and I really enjoy that. So I don't always have to be using them to be able to see battery life, and that is a huge plus in my opinion. You can kind of help keep track of that battery life. Just as long as they're kind of nearby you, you can go ahead and see that. I mentioned that I've had quite a few trips over the last few months. I think I've traveled like 4 or 5 times in the last month and a half. And so I was able to test out active noise cancellation quite a bit. And spoiler, it is fantastic. It works so well to the point where I usually travel with AirPods Pro. Regardless of, before the second generation, I was always AirPods Pro and AirPods Max, and one was specifically for the plane, and the other was just kind of around town. I don't like to wear my AirPods Max. They're just too big and too heavy at times. The Pro 2s are so good that I found myself just eventually like using it more than the Max, and then eventually on the next trip, like just leaving it at home altogether, saving a lot more space in my bag, and just sticking with one set of AirPods with me on a trip. And so that should basically sum up how great active noise cancellation has been. It's probably the best in class, in my opinion, with most in-ear headphones, if not at the top of the list. I mean, I haven't tested every single pair, but for the ones that I have, and I have tested a lot, there's really nothing else out there that can beat AirPods Pro 2 in active noise cancellation, and mostly in sound quality. Looking at the AirPods Pro 2 compared to the AirPods Pro, you'll obviously be like, what's the point of upgrading? Like, I just don't see a massive difference. It's the noise cancellation, huge improvements. Battery life has been great. Sound quality has been incredible. And AirPods Pro already sounded pretty good. These sound so much better, and it's so hard to justify that and quantify that to anyone, but just trust me, they sound so good. One of the things I wish you could do is maybe have some, EQ abilities. I know Apple's just not gonna do that, or at least not right now, but honestly, at the end of the day, you really don't need to with these. They sound really, really good. If you're not someone like me who just wants to tweak it a little bit more, you don't care, you're gonna be super happy with the way things sound. The sound profile, it's a little bit more, it's warmer. It's definitely bassier than the last generation, but I like that. It's a welcome addition, and things sound really, really, really good. Spatial audio is still fantastic, especially when you're watching content. I still can't get over how trippy it is to move your head and to be able to like have things track. You're listening to music and you do a full 180, you turn around, it seriously sounds like there's a band playing behind you, like you're at a show and you kind of turn around to talk to somebody. It's wild what these things can still do and how great they sound. So I'm a big fan of that. Forgot to mention, on the case there is one other change, and that's the inclusion of these speaker holes. Putting them down on a wireless charger, at times you're kind of like, is it charging, is it not? Being able to hear that audio cue that it is actually charging has been a nice touch, definitely like it. Having built-in Find My and precision tracking is another thing that's on here. Again, I haven't really needed to use it, aside from just testing it, but it's here if you need it, and it works really well. And that's kind of it. I mean, I can check my notes, but I'm pretty sure. Oh, I forgot to mention having volume control on the stems. You know, the gestures that we've kind of had on the last gen where you squeeze for play and pause and double squeeze and triple squeeze, all of that, that's still there. But now there's a volume kind of slider. You kind of have to like stick your finger and kind of curl it, and it like brushes up against this part of your ear and inside the little part of the stem, and you can squeeze. It's easy to do once you kind of get the hang of it, but it's a little awkward at first, but it works super well. I would never trade it in just to be able to have the ability to go up and down with volume on your headphones and not rely on either your watch or your iPhone has been a huge game changer. There are other headphones out there. Nothing's Ear Stick does, you know, similar controls with the stem where you squeeze, but that company does a squeeze on the right, I believe, goes up, like if you press and hold, and a press and hold on the left brings the volume down, which is kind of cool. But then I guess you kind of replace the voice assistant, which I never use with my AirPods, so I wouldn't care, and I would definitely like the press and squeeze and hold for volume up and down, but some people out there might not like that. But that's just another option. But I'm guessing Apple's gonna stick with this little slider here, which is fine. I'll take it. I'm not complaining. I personally really like it. And honestly, that's kind of the theme for the AirPods Pro 2. These are fantastic. It's a little expensive at $249. I get that. They're worth it if you want a new set. If your AirPods Pro original ones are starting to die out, definitely worth an upgrade. You're not going to be disappointed. And if you're coming from anything else that are not in a similar class like this and you're just unhappy, I would be shocked if you didn't end up liking them, assuming that they fit. Now, Apple has done a really good job of fixing the fit levels with AirPods Pro, you know, offering the fit test and offering new sizes. With this one, you do get a 4th size. I believe it's extra small now. You get inside, so it's extra small, small, medium, and large. And so you should be able to find a fit that works for you. But again, I would love to know your thoughts on everything. If you've been using these for a long time, or even if you just got them, let me know your thoughts on the AirPods Pro 2 in the comments down below. This has been Dan with Mac Rumors. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope to see you around in the next video.